What's up, everybody? You're listening to Trail Tales, episode number 83. My name is Kyle O'Grady. I am your host. I am a thru hiker, I am a peak bagger, and I am a huge hiking nerd. And every single week on this podcast, I chat with other hiking nerds like myself about their experiences on the trail. Kraig Adams is this week's guest. I'm sure a lot of you out there are familiar with him already, but if you're not, he is a bit of a different guest for this show. He has a very popular YouTube channel, and he kind of started as a more, quote, traditional YouTuber, whatever that means, aka not a hiking YouTuber strictly, and lately he has been transitioning his content into a hiking channel, or at least that's the way that I see it. I mean, most of his videos these days have been directed towards hiking, and they are amazing. He makes some very unique, really awesome films capturing his hikes, and it was a huge privilege to have the chance to talk to him. Pretty much all of the questions and the topics that we covered in this episode were submitted on Instagram, so thank you very much to everybody who sent a question for Kraig. I've made my job a lot easier, if I'm just going to be honest. And yeah, it was just a great chat. So thank you, Kraig. When you hear this, please come on again soon. You are probably the biggest guest that's been on Trail Tales up to this point. And speaking of that, I do think there's going to be a lot of new listeners. Yeah, because of that. So if this is your first time listening to Trail Tales, I hope you like it. And if you enjoy it, please go back and check out one of the 82 other episodes that exist. You can go to trailtalespod.com to listen to those other episodes, or you can just look on the exact podcast app you're listening on right now. That would be really cool. Go check out my Instagram as well, at Kyle Hates Hiking. You can check out my YouTube channel as well, also called Kyle Hates Hiking. I'm about to hit 10,000 subscribers. I'm really close, so I'm very excited about that, so please go check that out. Link in the show notes, Kyle Hates Hiking on YouTube. Plug, and my last plug, arguably the most important plug, because this is the plug that keeps this podcast going. This plug is for this episode's sponsor, CS Instant Coffee. So if you're drinking coffee on the trail and you're just going with the Folgers or the Starbucks via all that Nestle crap, all that stuff, you're doing it wrong. I hate to say it, but folks, you're doing it wrong. You gotta get CS Instant Coffee. It's by far the best instant coffee that I've ever tried. I'm not much of a coffee snob, and even I was able to notice a substantial difference between CS and all those other competitors. I've tried all that stuff throughout the years. It all sucks, honestly. CS is much better. I was through hiking the Monadnock to Sunapee Greenway Trail in New Hampshire this past weekend, and that's actually why I didn't upload an episode last week, so I apologize for that, but that's what I was doing, and I can very confidently say that CS absolutely got me through that freaking hike. Every single morning I was drinking that coffee, all 3 mornings, I guess, and folks, I hadn't hiked a 19-mile day in a long time, probably since last summer, and I did it no problem. And that's all because of CS Instant Coffee. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it certainly helped get me going in the morning. So you got to check them out. csinstant.coffee is the website URL, a URL that I will never get sick of plugging on here. csinstant.coffee. Again, I really want to get like a trailtalespod.coffee. I didn't know you could get .coffee as your freaking URL, but you can, and it's really cool, and the coffee is really great. One thing that I really like about CS is that they donate a quarter of their proceeds, at least on the dark roast, to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which is really cool. Obviously, many of you know that I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail, and so it's cool to see a company that's a very small company, mind you, who probably isn't making a ton of money yet, giving a lot of their profits over to a trail organization, especially one that we all love so much. So csinstant.coffee, go check it out. There is an affiliate link in the show notes to this episode if you want to help me out a little bit as well. If you buy through that, I'll get a bit of a kickback, and so I can make more episodes like this one where I ask a bunch of dumb questions and swear probably more than I should. So that would be really cool. Go check out that link. Go check out CS. And thank you so much to them for keeping this show going, for sponsoring this episode. With that said, we're going to get into it. Episode number 83 of Trail Tales, my conversation with the one and only Kraig Adams. right, here we go. Kraig Adams, dude, what's up? Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is really cool. I was saying this beforehand, but I gotta say it again. This is like, or you're like the quote biggest guest, I guess, that I've had on so far. I had on Darwin on the trail a couple months ago now, and he was like the biggest at the time. But yeah, this is just really cool. I appreciate you doing this so last minute, and I really like your stuff. Again, we were just talking about this, or I was talking to you about this, but the podcast and the videos, I haven't watched and listened to all of it or even a majority of it, but what I have seen and listened to I really enjoy. And not to mention, you're also a very highly requested guest for Trail Tales, so this is gonna be fun, man. Just real quick.
It's interesting to me because I'm, definitely more of a filmmaker than a hiker. So any chance to engage with the hiking community, and that's very much so your podcast, I'm very down for. So thanks for having me on. Yeah,
man. I mean, you're definitely a filmmaker. I wouldn't say you're more of a filmmaker than a hiker. I know that's kind of like your roots on YouTube, I guess. But dude, you've done some badass shit. Don't talk yourself down. I know you were about to try to do the PCT before all this shit went down too. So
yeah,
not to bring up any bad memories, but that
I
really
would have
sucks.
been on the trail right now. I don't know, Northern California or maybe into Washington. I don't know where I would be at this point, but I was supposed to. Yeah.
I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but just real quick, I guess, are there plans for the future then? Have you rescheduled, or are you just kind of going with the flow for now?
Yeah, definitely going with the flow. Everyone's plans have changed, since February, but I'm just trying to stay positive, and it's kind of given me an excuse to do more domestic hikes and to do a lot of little individual hikes instead of just one big one. Mm-hmm. It would have been a blast to do the PCT, and I would like to do it in the future, but I don't think I'm going to sign up for 2021 at this point. But maybe once the snow hits, I'll get that fever again and sign up, but we'll see.
There you go. Yeah. Well, shit, dude. I'm sure you'll get out there eventually. Can you spill the beans on the hike you just got back from?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Boise, Idaho right now in a Hilton hotel. And I just got done with a 70-mile loop in the Sawtooth Wilderness.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It took 3 days, and it was definitely hot. Some mosquitoes, but I really enjoyed it. It was nice to get out hiking.
Nice, man. I don't know anything about Idaho. Part of the CDT goes through Idaho, but I don't remember what part of what range it is. I just know it's somewhere over there. So that's really cool. I haven't done too much stuff out west. I'm more of an East Coast hiker, but I'm definitely eyeing up one of the West Coast big trails for hopefully next year, maybe. So that just hearing about that stuff excites me for sure.
But man, even though I was signed up for the PCT, I still don't know what it's like to do a super long hike like you. I'm a little worried that if I do attempt my first one, I can't imagine doing the AT. That must be insane.
Yeah. See, the thing that gets me with your situation in terms of that, and I'm sure you put some thought into this, so I'd be curious to hear you elaborate. But it's doing a longer through hike, and obviously the AT is a different beast than the PCT or the CDT. So not even trying to compare those, the terrain of those trails, but just the larger concept of doing a through hike. It's really not that much different than just doing a shorter hike, at least for somebody, who's done as much stuff as you have. So you could totally do it. The thing that makes me curious is how you would do the video aspect of it, because obviously, your films are very well produced, and I feel like I don't know this because I've never done it. I didn't vlog my hike or film my hike or anything back then, but I feel like it'd be pretty tough to maintain the same quality standards that you do, and also be in the grind of a through hike. Did you you must have put some thought into that before your plans got canceled, yeah?
Yeah, so I went through the whole process of getting ready for the PCT before it was canceled before me. I pared down my gear. I guess that was probably the biggest thing. I wanted to be as light as possible, and I even experimented. I'm a Sony guy, so I experimented with the RX100 Mark VII, which is a total point-and-shoot camera. Oh, yeah. I think I swung back a little bit because now I've got a little bigger of a camera than that. But I would obviously get rid of the drone. So I would just do tripod, microphone, and camera. And the biggest thing I'd be worried about is just overshooting. I feel like I would almost for sure get burnt out. Probably 2 weeks into the hike. Like I talked with some other people who were filming on the PCT and they experienced that as well. Like you go through waves, even just taking photos, like you get sick of it. And then you sort of feel like you're shooting the same thing over and over again. And then you kind of stop. Like my brother said that Northern California, he stopped shooting photos for like 2 weeks straight, didn't take a single photo. And then he found his love for it back again and like got inspired. So the mental aspect of filming on the trail would be tough for something that long. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And it's honestly something I've thought about too, because I honestly haven't really talked about this too much on the show, so I don't want to spill too many details yet because things are far from finalized, but I'm looking at doing a long trail next year, and I also want to film it. Fortunately, I will not be held to the same quality standards as your stuff will be, because it's not even close, but even just trying to do a normal vlog, I feel like it's going to be tough, man, and people do it every year, but like I've talked to a lot of people on the show that have done it, like IBTat and plenty of other folks like that. But it's just tough. I don't know. So I wish you had been able to hike this year, and I could have gotten some more insight on that. But you know, it is what it is.
I'm in the opposite camp. I think I would like to do a hike and not film.
Have you ever?
I wonder what that would be like.
So you've never done one before? Because this is a question I've asked other hiking YouTubers before, and I'm always kind of surprised to hear the answer.
Yeah. When I was young, I obviously wasn't doing YouTube as a full-time job. So I was hiking with family, and that was back in the day. But I haven't been on a hike where I haven't filmed ever, really.
Mm-hmm. Dude, full-time job you're hiking for a living, basically. That sounds so sick, but you know, just understanding a little bit more about this than the average person. Obviously, my numbers aren't anywhere close to yours, but I still got a little audience, and so I understand this stuff. I feel like it would be sick to say, like, yeah, I'm like hiking and making films for a living, but there's got to be some downsides to that too, yeah, or at least some tricky aspects. I don't know.
Yeah, it's more so just figuring out what I want to do with my life outside of YouTube. But I think minimalism and just being a filmmaker and then making a life as technically, I guess I'm an influencer, you know, it has opened some doors and allowed me a lot of freedom in so many different ways. So I'm grateful. Yeah, man. That's the way to look at it, I guess. Oh, I just had a question queued up. I lost it. There we go. So, I did the little Instagram poll thing, and I've done these in the past, and sometimes I'll get good questions, sometimes I won't, but I got a lot of good questions. So I think a lot of the things I'm going to ask you today are from Instagram, mostly from your followers. Because I'm glad to hear that, because you know I posted it on my Instagram, so hopefully some of those people spilled onto you and asked some questions. Yeah, man. So this is a good one, just because we kind of already touched on this a little bit. Does filming the hike take away from the experience, or does being creative add to it? Yeah, I really enjoy it, especially when I'm out there by myself. It would be different if I was traveling with a bunch of people. It'd be definitely more like cracking jokes and fooling around and doing stuff like that. But when I'm by myself, I can focus and, you know, being able to share what I experience in my own way is definitely part of it. It would be fun to hike and not film it, but it would be weird if I went by myself and didn't film it. Yeah, it would be a bit lonely, honestly. Bit lonely. Interesting. Yeah. It's like, I feel like, obviously the question was directed for you, but I've only filmed a couple of my hikes so far, and nothing like super extensive, nothing more than a couple days. But I think it just depends, right? Because I kind of came at it from the perspective of someone who had never created content before. Like I did, you know, my first 3,000 miles before I ever posted a podcast or a YouTube video or anything like that. And now I'm like adding the camera back in, and not to beat a dead horse too much, because I've said this 1,000 times to my existing audience in past episodes, but just for anybody new who might be tuning in here, it for me, it definitely enhances the experience, just because it's new and it's kind of adding a fresh perspective on something I've done so much already. But I almost wish you have done more hikes without the camera, because if that's like all you know basically when you're hiking too, I feel like it's hard to give. I don't know. It's kind of a hard question, but
I have another question about just like I could probably do a whole episode on questions about your process, honestly, because this stuff really makes me stoked. But how much or how little you basically plan like the edit in your head like while you're shooting it, I guess, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I had a previous guest on who his YouTube channel is called Backcountry Exposure, and he told me that he would go out and on all his hikes when he was filming them, he would basically kind of put the edit together while he was filming it. He'd be like, okay, I know how this scene I'm shooting right now is going to fit into the story, and I feel like I don't really do that. I just kind of go out and film a bunch of shit, then like kind of hack it together afterwards. So, anyways, long question, but I hope that was clear.
Yeah, I could go out there and shoot everything, but that would take a lot of time and be boring if I get the same shot over and over again. And as much as I want to say I'm authentically sharing my experience, just through the fact of omission, I'm greatly editing what I'm showing people of the trail. So in my mind, I for sure am thinking about the order of the shots, the pacing, what I've previously shot. And to be honest, at the beginning of every hike, I feel a little, not disappointed, but like unsure of the quality of the video. And it's usually around like past the half point of the hike that I finally feel like, okay, yeah, I am getting a diverse amount of shots. I've got some really cool bangers that I got really excited and I can't wait to share. I feel good about this video actually like seeing the light of day, because at the beginning of some hikes I've been so like distraught and felt like I didn't even want to share the hike, like
really,
and that ties, yeah, like there's been a couple times when I thought I wasn't even going to share, like the second Alaska one that I did, Casigi Ridge. I was just like in a weird headspace, and I thought it was like really weird conditions for the trail, and I didn't think I was getting good enough shots, so I just like pushed through and finished that in 2 days when it probably should have been like a 3 or 4 day hike, just because I wanted to get off the trail. So that happens every so often,
Yeah, definitely. Kind of piggybacking off of that, how is this another thing I've talked about a little bit with other hiking creators, YouTubers, or whatever, but how do you balance the hike and the filming aspect of it? Because I've said this a million times in other episodes, but hiking big miles like that, and most of the people listening probably know this, is hard enough by itself without a camera, without trying to think about what you're shooting and trying to do all that stuff. So yeah, how do you balance the hike and the difficulties that come with that with the added, in some way you could say burden maybe of filming it and trying to capture something that a lot of people are gonna like?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to shoot a hike, and my style always comes down to the tripod, locked shot. I almost never move the camera and never do handheld in my videos, so that requires me to set up the tripod, frame the shot, hit record, walk past the camera, stop, come back, and then grab it all, and then start again. So obviously that, adds some time and some extra distance to the hike. And a lot of people, that's like a selling point for the videos, and it excites a lot of people. Like, oh, it says 100 miles, but he probably went 150 miles. Because like, obviously it's not that extreme. It just adds a little bit. But I definitely keep my tripod slung on my strap, my backpack strap, kind of like a knight. So whenever I take the tripod unsheath, I feel like I need to be able to ready to get the shot whenever I need to get the shot. Like if I had to take my backpack off and take the camera and the tripod out to get every shot, I feel like I wouldn't shoot as much. So the camera's hanging off my front and the tripod is hanging off to my side, so I'm always ready to get the shot.
Right. But do you ever feel like your pace is interrupted? I mean, I guess it just depends on your style, and if you're used to filming, then maybe not so much. But I've found with me, adjusting from the hiking style of just kind of like cranking out the miles, like kind of getting into a groove and only taking a couple breaks throughout the day, it's been a little bit tricky, at least at first, kind of reprogramming myself to stop every now and then to take out the camera and film something, even if it's just for a second. I like to get in the groove, and that can be kind of tricky. So just in terms of, I guess, pacing, or even just beyond the extra the extra miles you have to do going back to the camera to pick it up and stuff. Just the overall, I think I used the word burden of making the film more generally. How do you just kind of like deal with that?
Yeah, it's all I've ever known.
See, that's
so
true, though.
I'm very
that's
used
true.
to the pace,
Yeah.
but if I got rid of the batteries, the tripod, the camera, and then the burden on my mind of always trying to get something worth sharing, I would try to go so light that I would almost trail run. I think it would be fun to just burn through the trails. Like for a full day, I'm trying to do at least 20 miles a day, depending on the elevation gain, but I would probably be faster if I wasn't doing the video, obviously, but it's just what I do. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the reason why I kind of like, after I asked that question, I kind of hesitated a little bit. It's just because it's just part of what you do, like you just said. So, you know, that when that's all you know, kind of going back to that, I don't know. I feel like I just kind of have a slightly unique perspective on this. I mean, there's other people out there who started YouTube after they'd already hiked a bunch, but it just fascinates me. I don't know. It just fascinates me when people come on here that film like all their hikes and haven't really done that much without the camera. So I think you should try it sometime. I think I think it would be cool.
Yeah, I will say though, every so often, like maybe once or twice a day, there's a shot that I know will be good, but it just takes a little bit more extra effort. And my rule is that I have all the time in the world. You know, I'm out here doing it. Just suck it up and do it. So like one of those shots for this hike that I just did, there was a huge rock slide avalanche that like wiped out a good section of the trail. And it was kind of a tough little, you know, random thing to get over, and I just had to set up the shot so that I could see where the rock slide started up on the hill. And you know, it probably took an extra 2 or 3 minutes of like tough climbing over these boulders, but it was worth it in the end. And like I said, once or twice every day there's one of those shots that, oh, I'm gonna walk all the way down here in these switchbacks just to climb all the way back up so that I'm like a tiny speck on this clip, you know. But yeah, it's worth it.
That's so awesome, man. And I feel like that kind of ties into just your overall like style. And again, I haven't watched every single video, you know. I'm sure there's people listening that are much more familiar with your work than I am, but from what I have seen, it's very different than a lot of the other hiking videos. You're not talking to the camera. You're not, you know, giving the intricate details of every little thing that's happening. You're really just kind of, you know, showing the landscape, showing yourself in the landscape, certainly still telling your story, but it's different. And I really like that, honestly, and I think that's a big reason why people are so drawn to your stuff. So I don't know, and maybe this is kind of a dumb question. Maybe I'll regret asking this once I learn more about you, honestly. But if I can even get it out here, I don't know. How deliberate is that? Is that just what came naturally to you? Is there a reason you film your stuff like that? Or yeah, I don't know. Is that just because it's different? You know, it's different, and I feel like when people ask me sometimes, probably not as much as you, about just advice in terms of people starting YouTube and at least hiking YouTube, the thing I always say is just like, be different, do something different, and you're going to stand out. So I really appreciate that about your stuff. So I think there was a question in there, or at least hopefully a point where you can jump off from.
Yeah, I agree. If you're unsure about what to do in a genre, do something different and go from there. I, of course, started out doing typical hiking videos where I was talking and sharing and, you know, just being eccentric and positive. But I definitely made the switch to showing and not telling. And I think that definitely defines my style. And also being a filmmaker who started hiking kind of makes me stand out a little bit, I hope. But I don't talk in my videos. I don't, you know, I lock down all of my shots. So I think just the beauty of nature should try to speak for itself. I put myself in almost every frame just so you have some kind of reference and that you're able to follow a single character. But I'm always walking away from the camera in most of the shots. And, you know, more so than explaining how to do the hike and being a tutorial or a guide, I've kind of moved into a space of relaxation. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want to leave people with after they watch my videos, that they can expect that, a 10 to 20 minute video will play. I'll walk away from the camera. They'll get to see the entire trail. It's kind of a spoiler, but to be honest, some of these people just aren't ever going to get out to the trail.
Right.
And I think it's cool that they get to experience it and relax for a bit.
And I think one of the things that's so cool about that is it makes them more accessible for people who aren't like hardcore hikers, kind of like you and I, and like a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this podcast, honestly. Because let's face it, someone who doesn't really know or care that much about hiking isn't really going to care to hear me like talk into my camera about how many miles I did and which milestones I hiked over and advice for people that are going to hike through this section in the future. Like, they might just want to see the scenes and the landscape and, basically everything that you show in your videos. And maybe I'm going off the rails a little bit here, but I feel like that works with YouTube because from my understanding, you weren't always like a hiking YouTuber. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're just coming up on 1 year of me starting to upload hiking videos.
Which I think is so fascinating, honestly, because not only do I watch a lot of hiking YouTube, but I just watch a lot of YouTube in general. And there's not many, I guess, quote, hiking YouTubers who didn't like come up, doing that stuff. Dixie and Darwin, probably the two biggest ones, at least in terms of thru hikers right now. They kind of came up doing that stuff. And I think it's from the little knowledge I have about, your past, I think it's interesting that you kind of made that transition. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I've been a filmmaker all my life. I went to school in Buffalo for that and then went to New York City, did an internship with MTV, hated it, but stayed in the city, freelanced, got into weddings, shot a lot of weddings, started a YouTube channel teaching people how to shoot weddings. And then that was the transition into becoming like a full-time YouTuber. A couple of years ago, I sold that channel, stopped shooting weddings, and then just started my current channel. And a year ago, started traveling way more. Shooting travel films, and then eventually hated the cities and got away from people as much as I could and landed into the mountains. And I've just been sharing my experiences the whole way. And as my audience has changed, as my interests have changed, the only thing that remains is just me trying to share my experiences in my own way.
Right.
So, it may change in the future, but I'm really enjoying hiking right now. And I think the world is really embracing some relaxation, getting into nature, just with all the craziness going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude, no kidding. I just think that's so fascinating because it's just unique. It's a unique way to get into this little niche scene, I guess. And have you found, you just mentioned your audience shifting a little bit there. Just roughly, do you think that most people watching your stuff now are other, hikers like you and I? Is it more people who were following you before or just appreciate the filmmaking aspect of things? Or is it kind of a nice healthy mix?
Yeah, up until probably 7 or 8 months ago, most of my audience were subscribers who found me on their own or through collaborations. And most of these people were filmmakers. There's definitely a good amount of wedding filmmakers who started following my non-wedding stuff, my travel stuff. Mm-hmm. But about 7 or 8 months ago, all starting with the hornstrand deer video that I shot that kind of blew up, the YouTube algorithm has shown my videos to a lot of people who have never known anything about me. So my audience has changed drastically in the past couple of months. A lot of these people are hikers. So I've definitely shifted away from filmmakers, but I would say I still have a huge crossover between people who shoot video and people who hike more so than other channels, I think.
That's so cool, man. I don't know. I just for me personally, honestly, because I'm such a YouTube nerd and have been for so long, it's just cool to see the two what I thought were separate worlds of like hiking niche YouTubers and just like non-hiking YouTube people like Brett Conti, for instance. Like I've watched a lot of his videos, and it's just kind of interesting because I saw you in one of his more recent videos. And that's kind of when it clicked for me, honestly. When I saw that, I was like, oh shit, like that's Kraig is somebody who I feel like is more in my world of like the hiking side of things, and I'm seeing him cross over in the more general vlog, whatever you want to call it, side of things that a lot of people listening to this podcast probably don't know or care about, honestly. But I just think that's really cool, man.
The YouTube New York City club is pretty tight knit, so yeah, I've definitely hung out with Brett, been good friends with him, and even traveled to Thailand and Bali with him. But the hiking community is new to me. You know, like I said, I've only been in the fray for about a year now, and I'm just starting to talk to people like yourself. And to be honest, I don't watch any hiking videos. I just don't want it to contaminate, you know, what I shoot. I don't want to copy anyone because I feel like it's pretty hard not to if you watch that. So, you know, as much as I would love to engage with the community, I'd rather do it in podcast form or when people say hi on the trail or maybe on Instagram. But yeah, it's been good so far.
It's funny you say that because when Darwin and I were talking, he said the exact same thing to me. I can't remember if it was on the podcast or before or after the recording or something, but and I've talked to him a little bit since then, and he's said that a couple times. It's that he doesn't like to consume other hiking content, so that it pretty much your exact words there, so it doesn't contaminate his own. And I just think that's really interesting. It definitely makes a lot of sense. I guess also just if anybody out there is listening to or looking to start a hiking YouTube channel, I guess to kind of give the flip side of it, basically. What I've done is I consumed a lot of hiking content. I saw where I thought there was a lack of comedy, basically, or just general goofiness. And then I was like, okay, shit, I can be the person that kind of fills that void. And that's kind of worked for me so far. Not that I'm anywhere close to Kraig's number. I'm close to 9,000 subscribers and like just over half a million views. Yeah. So again, not even close. But you know, a modest amount of success for the not even year that I've been doing this stuff. So that was actually another question somebody had asked, is just advice for hiking YouTubers. So now that I'm kind of sending some mixed signals here, is there any other advice you would give there? I know you're relatively new to this scene, but this got to be something else, right?
Yeah, just add value as much as possible. I talked about how I'm kind of moving away from guides and helping people actually hike the trail and know what to expect. But that's how I got started with any audience, you know, weddings or vlogging around New York or travel. Just make video guides that explain and solve people's problems. Like if you reverse engineer the Google search, just like the hike that I just did, like Sawtooth Wilderness, like people would type into the search how to hike Sawtooth, like how to get to the trailhead, all those things. Like, so just look at it in the reverse and try to be as helpful as possible. And when you're starting out, every single comment, every single engagement, every single question or DM is super valuable. So you need to go above and beyond to be the customer service for your own brand.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And kind of piggybacking off of that, I said this a few minutes ago too, but do something different. Like that's what I did. And again, nowhere close to the amount of success that you've seen on YouTube, but like I've definitely surpassed a lot of other hiking channels that were even, you know, doing this before I was, just simply because I was doing something different. It doesn't even have to be that different, but just do something slightly different. Just add in some, like what I did basically is I just did the top 10 style videos that everybody else, all the other hiking YouTubers do, but I just added in a bunch of dumb jokes and swore a little bit more than normal. And that was enough to make me stand out a little bit. And I don't know. Anyways, I could literally talk about YouTube shit all day. How about this? This is a little bit of a different question, probably more relevant for the audience more generally. Deciding where to go on your hikes, because and this one interests me too, honestly, because I'm based in the Northeast. I live in Burlington, Vermont, and so I got the Whites, the Adirondacks, or here in Vermont, and those are like my places. And I always I could go somewhere else. I could fly somewhere, but I got a full-time job. I don't have as much freedom to just go wherever to hike as you do, obviously. And so I'm just thinking about it. Like, if I could literally just go anywhere to hike, like, I don't even know how I would decide. So yeah, how do you, it's a long-winded way of asking, how do you decide, where you're going to go for your next film, for your next hike?
Yeah, so I've designed my life to work perfectly with shooting hiking films. So I'm currently in Idaho, but I have everything that I own with me and no apartment. So I'm completely nomad. I just have my hiking backpack, my Hyperlite Southwest, and then I have a duffel bag. So it's very easy for me just to up and go to different places. And I'm just shooting as many hikes as possible. I've got only one plan for the end of this month, but I'm probably going to sneak in another one between that. I have a list on All Trails of 110 hikes that I have done, a little bit of research. Some of them are outlandish, like 500 miles in Spain that I probably won't be able to do anytime soon. But I do have a good idea of domestic and international. Right now I can't fly international, so I'm just popping off some domestic hikes. I'd love to get up to Montana to do the Glacier Traverse. I'd like to do Rainier. I'd like to do Timberline, Uinta. I'm going down to do Catalina Island in a week, which is going to be a weird hike.
Nice.
But I'm really, for me, it's a bit different. It would be, so I've gotten some pushback on my flight emissions, and I've got a couple people more so than ever before, like telling me that I shouldn't fly so much.
Bro, I literally just got a question on my poll, kind of digging you for flying now.
Yeah. I think, you have to be wary of criticism, whether it's good or bad. And I've given it some thought and it does make sense. So I definitely want to try to find the balance of flying around the world in excess versus, trying to be efficient with the hikes that I do. With that said, I really do enjoy, I think there's a lot of value in having diverse uploads. So if I do a desert hike, it would be cool to do like a wet hike. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I just don't want to do 10 uploads of all different trails from Utah in a row.
Yeah,
I just don't think that fits my brand. I want to keep people surprised.
And if you have the ability to go to different places, then shit, why not, man? Like, I think I'm jealous, dude. I wish I could do that.
So me becoming nomad is kind of my middle ground for that, because up until this point, I was flying back to New York City.
I was going to say, are you just out of New York City now? Like, you're...
Yeah.
Damn.
So flying back to New York City after every hike was a bit excessive. So I understand the pushback for that. But now I feel good. I'm not doing the van life. I'm I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good nomad, but it should be a good season for hiking videos.
Yeah, man. Where are you from?
I'm from New York, upstate. I've lived in the state of New York all my life, but I was in New York City for 7 years.
Where upstate?
Rochester.
You're from Rochester? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I went to Clarkson, so I didn't know anything about New York State until I went there, and then half of my friends were from like Rochester and Buffalo, and I learned what a garbage plate was, and I learned that the Bills were the best football team in existence, allegedly, and all that stuff. So,
yeah, my best friend John Exley went to Clarkson, so
cool.
We hung out there every so often.
Nice, man. Yeah, you're real close to the Adirondacks, and honestly, I think the first times I ever stumbled across any of your videos were, I don't know how many you've done in the Adirondacks, but I know you've done at least like a couple, so. I thought that was cool because there's not many like big, quote, I'll use the stupid hand quotations, big YouTubers that have like shot stuff there. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, Adirondacks are so special to me because I grew up going there almost every year. And that's probably going to be the only mountain range that I'll probably shoot every year. I do have plans to go back in October just because the colors are just so amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And even though they're not the biggest mountains, they're just so special to me. So I'll definitely go back.
Here's a question for you, because there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that hiking the Adirondacks. How, just very general question. I'll let you take this. where you want. But how does hiking in the Adirondacks compare to the other places you've been? I think you're a unique person to ask this to because you've just been to so many different places. So yeah, how does, I don't know, you could scenery, terrain, difficulty, any of that stuff. How does the Adirondacks compare to, some of the other places you've been?
Yeah, I've seen so few hikes that are out there. Like, I feel like I've done a couple of the low-hanging fruit, like Tour de Mont Blanc and, some of the big hikes like that, but I still have not done anything. I think it's a shame if you're trying to find like bigger and bigger mountains, and I want to try to get away from that like spectacle aspect. Like, you don't need to hike like the most amazing white-capped mountains to have a good film. And I think going back to the Adirondacks to shoot the dense, rooted, muddy, honestly tough trails, surprisingly tough trails.
People don't realize it, man. They see the elevation and they're like, oh, it's only 4,000 feet. Like, it can't be that bad. But it's like, again, I haven't really hiked that much outside the Northeast, but like, shit, it's some tough stuff for sure.
I'll tell you, I get caught in darkness on those trails, over expecting to be back by camp by this time, but it takes me an extra hour or two, more so than any other trail, because the Adirondacks, it's tough to know what to expect as far as what distance you can go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in the high peaks where it's just so freaking brutal.
I love it though.
Oh, dude, me too. I haven't had a chance to get over there yet. New York's been a little bit more hesitant to allow out-of-staters over there than New Hampshire has, and I live just about as close to the White Mountains as I do to the Adirondacks. So I've kind of been opting to head over there, but I'll get over to the Adirondacks soon. Actually, me and my roommate are going to be hopefully doing the Northville Plaza Trail, probably a month and a half or so. But before I get...
I was looking at that, but the buses were not running from Lake Placid back to New York, so I would have had to finesse some kind of transportation.
Yeah. It's a cool trail. I did like 120 miles of it a number of years ago. I freaking quit like an idiot, but I'm gonna go get some revenge hopefully. So we'll see. The Adirondacks are awesome. Have you ever... People are going to roll their eyes at this because we talk about the White Mountains so much on this podcast, but have you ever been to the Whites before?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
New Hampshire?
No.
Another place
would you
to
recommend it?
I would. I add it to your list of like 100 fucking places like you said you had or whatever.
Yep.
It's pretty similar to the Adirondacks, honestly. But it's really cool.
Yeah. I think I just had a friend who was suggesting it. So yeah, I'll definitely do some more research for that area.
All I'm saying is you could get some sweet shots up on like the Presidential Ridge or something. You'll probably get recognized like every 5 seconds though, because it's the Presidential Ridge at least is a very popular place to go hiking. So it's not exactly it's not Alaska. I'll say that. It's not hiking a bunch of miles alone in Alaska, but it would be cool. Speaking of getting recognized, somebody asked about this too. And I always like to ask people this. I don't always ask it on the show because I feel like most people probably don't care that much, but you're a little bit different because you do have a pretty large audience. Have you ever had any like weird encounters with people who recognize you from YouTube, like while you were hiking, or just funny ones, I guess?
I think on every single hike I've ran into someone. I got in trouble because I said it wrong, but in Chile, the Torres del Paine, I still can't say it.
I don't know what the fuck it is, so you're good.
that was a weird hike because I went so far. Like, that was the furthest I've ever traveled away from home down south, but I probably ran into like a dozen people who recognized me and took photos. None of them have been too crazy. Like Nepal, there was some hiking guides who recognized me and took photos. That was, very cool to be recognized by like hiking guides rather than just hikers. But yeah, nothing too crazy. On the trail that I just got off of, the Sawtooth Wilderness, I got to talk to a subscriber who's like a 75-year-old man who was out there hiking by himself. And I was hiking by myself, so I always try to strike up conversations with anyone who will let me. And he had this great story, just like his whole life story and how he beat cancer and now he's like out hiking, trying to get strong again. And it was pretty humbling to, talk to him and see him out there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome. That's good. That's good that you didn't have any like, or maybe you're just being nice, but any like creepy, I don't know, or just like weird. Because even with only 8.5 thousand subscribers, I haven't met anybody like creepy, but I've gotten a couple of weird ass messages. I'm sure you have too. But anyways,
yeah, I'm pretty smart about it. I've never had any weird situations.
Yeah, and I guess I know like I haven't talked to them about this, but I've read in various articles and people like Darwin and Dixie, for instance, have had trouble in the past, and Second Chance too, with people like, usually if you're doing a through hike and they can like kind of gauge like where you are, like people have like tried to, intercept them on the trail, and that's been kind of weird. But I guess with you, it's a little bit different because you're just doing like shorter hikes and you're not, broadcasting your location and stuff beforehand. And, by the time everybody knows where you were, it's when the video's out. So I don't know.
Yeah. I just try to keep my privacy when it comes to those things.
Definitely makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about editing a little bit. So again, like I'm always so curious about this. And a couple people actually asked this in the Instagram poll too. How the question that most people asked was, how long does the editing take? I'm honestly curious enough to dive in a little bit more, but I guess I'll start with that. Like how, on average, I'm sure it varies. How long do these hiking films take to actually like edit?
Yeah. Duration, it probably takes like 1 or 2 days. Just because I dive into it when I'm out traveling and living a nomad lifestyle, like I've got nothing else to do but edit the video. So right now I'm in a hotel, gonna go get some food after this, but then I'm gonna probably spend 3 or 4 hours after dinner to start the edit for the trail I just did. And then I've got a flight tomorrow, and airports are one of the best co-working spaces.
Yeah, there you go.
Air conditioning, all the space in the world, no one to bother you. You can buy some coffee, free Wi-Fi. So I'll probably finish the video at the airport, if not in the air for my next location. So if it's like a 15-minute film, maybe, I don't know, like 7 or 8 hours of editing.
Nice. But you don't like you don't color grade, right? I've heard you say that.
Yeah, so it might be stubbornness, but I try to prove that you don't need too many bells and whistles when it comes to doing making a good film if you have the foundation, like composition, exposure. So I don't do any color grading. Everything's shot on camera. I shoot JPEGs for photos. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about not doing that? Have you ever thought about just taking that extra step, I guess? Not that you need to, but I don't know. If the process ever gets stale, I feel like that would be, at least for me, it would be like the first thing maybe I would think about doing. But I don't know. Have you ever thought about changing that? Or could you ever see a scenario where you would, maybe dive into color grading a little bit?
Well, I used to be one of those filmmakers that would, copy the Peter McKinnon style or whatever, teal and orange, whatever. Just putting the bells and whistles on stuff because you feel like you're supposed to, because everyone else does. With my stuff, like I said, I don't watch other people's things, so I'm not really copying the style of anyone else's. I just want to portray it as I saw it. I just want it to be as real as possible. And, what you see in the video is what I saw there on trail. So that's all I'm trying to do.
I got you, man. And how about the sound? So that's like a big part of your video, obviously, your films, obviously. How much time goes into editing the sound versus the actual picture?
So definitely more time than people realize and expect. I do have a larger, more expensive microphone on my camera than I probably should or need to, I guess.
But I mean, it's like I just said, it's so important to like telling your stories, so it makes sense,
but it's kind of hidden. It's the old saying that if you don't notice it, it's like doing its work. So having the birds, having the atmosphere, having like good wind sounds, which people don't realize, like you can have good and bad wind noise, makes a huge difference. And the more that I can do sound editing and have good recordings, the less I can rely on music. Because music does help portray an emotion or control the pace or highlight or omit different things in the video. But if you have good sound, it is almost like a song.
Yeah, man. Let's do some oh, sorry, did I cut you off there?
No, that was good.
Let's do some rapid fire here before we get into the story, because honestly there's so many questions here, and some of these are kind of ridiculous, but let's see. All right, I have no idea what this means, but Chris Hall asks, why do you know Chris Hall?
He was my ex-roommate.
Oh, okay. He asked, why is he an emo boy now? Is he sad inside?
God, I hate Chris. Never take Chris Hall seriously ever.
You're not an emo boy? Damn, bro.
Yeah, I make fun of him so much that he feels the need to make fun of me, but he's never funny, so that I always win.
I thought it was kind of funny. Chris Hall totally just trolled me on my own podcast. That's great.
Yeah, you just got trolled by Chris Hall.
Shame. Let's see here. How about what kind of music or podcast do you listen to while you're hiking, or lack thereof?
Yeah, I'm a Team Spotify guy. I have a couple playlists. I have liked songs that put me in a good mood.
Is it emo? Is it emo songs? A little Taking Back Sunday?
Nah, it's a mix of everything. Fleet Foxes and Radiohead, which
there you go.
Is kind of emo, but I do also have an upbeat movie soundtrack playlist that I listen to, especially when I'm going up elevation and I need some motivation.
Ah, there you go.
You know, like Star Wars symphony stuff and, all that good stuff just to put me in a good mood.
Yeah.
And podcasts I've kind of moved away from a little bit. I will listen to podcasts or audiobooks if I'm absolutely dead and need some motivation for like a long, just to kill some stretch. Time. Yeah. But it just takes so much attention that I think it negatively impacts the trail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. I definitely see that. Especially, or maybe I'm reading more into this than I should be, but I feel like with the filming too, especially if you're like looking for good shots and stuff, it maybe might distract you a little bit more. I'll say on my through hike, I definitely listen to a lot of podcasts. In fact, the OG Trail Tales listeners will know that the idea for this podcast came about from listening to so many podcasts on my through hike. But I guess on shorter hikes though, if I'm just doing a couple days, I usually don't listen to podcasts or even music for that matter, maybe sometimes. But what do you say to the people, because this is what I get, and every hiking YouTuber, I talked to Darwin about this too, gets this, whenever they say that they listen to music while they're hiking, there's always going to be like the one guy that's like, oh, like, fuck you, dude, like you gotta listen to like the sounds of nature, like takes away from the experience or whatever. So have you ever found that being the case? It sounds like maybe a little bit with the podcast, or if not, then does it enhance the experience? Like, what do you say to those folks?
Yeah, I go through different moods, and I would never tell anyone what to do or what not to do when they're doing their own hike. I can only share my experiences.
Sure.
There are definitely moments when I just want to soak up and appreciate the natural sounds and the silence and the birds. So, it depends on the length of the trail. I have heard stories of people doing the PCT, and on stretches of like desert or boringness, they will literally watch Netflix on their phone.
Oh, no way, really? I've actually never heard that before. That's so funny.
That's the extreme, but hey, unless you're out there and they're in their shoes, you can't really dog on them.
It's true. It's definitely more of a tool, like I just said, on a longer hike. On the AT, I can tell you that you could not watch Netflix because it's just too rocky and dirty and shit. It's a lot more reminiscent of the Adirondacks than it is of the desert and stuff. But that's so funny. Just like watching The Office while you're freaking crushing like a 30-mile day. I love that. I'll have to keep that in mind when I get out there. That's so funny. I don't know. Like I would definitely echo what you just said in terms of like, do what you want. I never like it when people are like, oh, I just got one of these comments the other day, so it's kind of fresh in my mind about music, because it's like, you can have a balance. You can spend a lot of time without music or podcast or headphones, whatever, take it all in. But sometimes, especially if, I think kind of what we're alluding to here, especially if it's a tougher stretch or you just need that extra like mental boost, freaking throw the headphones in. I found that like, sometimes I'll hear a song that I listen to on my thru hike for the first time, and it'll like kind of take me back to that spot. So in that way, it enhanced the experience. So I don't know. It's preference, personal preference at the end of the day.
Yeah,
dude.
And just don't judge other people for what they're listening to.
Yeah.
I will say, on the Alaska hike, there was one night that I got to camp early, and I kid you not, I watched the Hunger Games in my tent. So we all have those moments.
You're pissing off the boomers right now, man. They're gonna be like, "Oh, like, fuck you, dude. You're in Alaska. You're watching freaking." I don't know. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Whatever it takes to get you out there, or keep you out there, or whatever. Dude, let's do a story. The end of the episode here. So, I'm pretty notorious for not reminding my guests about this. I don't feel terrible about this with us because we put this together so last minute. I mean, it's pretty much been like just over 24 hours since we made contact about doing this. So, you had a little bit of heads up, probably not as much as I tried to give people, but it sounds like you have a story queued up, yeah?
Yeah, it's I haven't really shared this story, but it's definitely interesting if you've seen my Chile hike. So it was a super long flight down to Chile from New York. It was the furthest south I'd ever been. And, it took some time. It took a bus and then another bus to get to the national park. And I was just not prepared. I didn't speak the language, even though they somewhat speak English. But there are a lot of rules and regulations. And one thing that I usually like to do is wild camp, and you cannot do that at the Torres del Paine National Park. So they required reservations. And even though I had done some research, I just didn't get reservations because I thought I could just finesse my way around the O, which I forget how many miles, but it was like a maybe 40-mile loop. And you needed reservations for every single campsite. So I got to the trailhead. I walked 10 miles to the first camp, and then they turned me back.
Oh,
they legit would not let me stay there. So I had to walk all the same day, 10 miles back to the trailhead. So it was a 20-mile day. I got back on the bus, went back. It was an hour and a half ride back to town. And it was an entire day wasted. I had shot stuff, but I felt so defeated. I was probably close to crying, like that kind of defeated and morale devastated. Mm-hmm. But I did my bookings, I made it work, and then went back the next day just to do the exact same route, but I finally had reservations. So you can watch that video and not tell, but some of the clips in the beginning are actually 2 different days.
Oh.
So it's kind of hard to tell. Maybe you can if you go back and watch the first 3 minutes. But yeah, nobody knows that I did 30 miles instead of 10 miles that first day for that hike. And it just taught me, do the research, follow the rules. And I just want to make sure that, I'm doing everything correctly, and I just never have to feel defeated like that ever again.
I was going to say, I'm sure you won't make that mistake again. I can't relate to that too much because, again, Northeast American hiking, or, United States hiking. And so were you more like, right when it happened, right when they told you, no, get the fuck out of here, were you more mad about that, or just more embarrassed? Did you learn their lesson right away, or did it take a couple miles or a couple days or whatever of reflecting before you were shit, that was on me,
Yeah, I definitely sat outside the camp for a good 10 minutes stewing. And I'll tell you, 10 miles is a long time to think about the mistake that you made.
Yeah, dude, especially when you're marching back to God knows what, you don't even know what your plan is after that.
Yeah, so I was definitely frustrated, and I'm super glad that I got my, shit together and then went back and shot that video. And that was on the RX 100. That was without a drone. So it was already a weird, strange, risk for me in a sense compared to my other videos. But to be honest, that's one of my most popular videos on my YouTube channel. So it just goes to show you, like, even I don't know what people are going to like.
Yeah.
You just got to get out there, do your best, shoot it, and then keep going on to the next hike and shooting the next one.
Yeah, man. Well, good for you for not bailing on it, because it would have been pretty easy to, finish that 20-mile day and be like, well, shit. I guess I'm done here because fuck that. So, yeah. Do you think you would have done that if it hadn't been for the video, or are you just too stubborn for that?
I definitely needed like a big comfort meal when I got back to town that day, and I definitely convinced myself to get back out there. The video aspect, it's my job, so I kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
It definitely sways and impacts me, I think, in a good way. It keeps me motivated, and I'm traveling nonstop just to shoot more videos, and it is my job, but I do love it. So, I'm going to keep doing it.
Awesome, man. Well, I think that's going to kind of do it here. Dude, thank you again so much for taking the time here. Really cool. This is kind of like a little milestone in Trail Tales history, so I really appreciate it, man. Any parting thoughts, anything you want to share, go ahead and plug your social media, your Instagram and that stuff, for just for those who aren't familiar with you. Yeah, any parting thoughts?
No, I know it's last minute, but thanks for setting this up, Kyle. And I'm definitely a lone wolf. Like I said, I don't watch other people's things, and I kind of want to stay as lean and nimble as possible. Staying quiet about the hikes that I'm doing until I upload and that kind of aspect. So I hope it's not standoffish to the hiking community. I'll talk about gear because I think it's important to talk about tools, and I'm gonna keep making hiking videos, but I definitely am a filmmaker who started hiking, so I'm still slowly breaking into the community, and I'm just grateful to be able to hear from people like you and other hikers who do that first and foremost, and I'm just trying to share my perspective from that end. But thanks for having me on here.
Of course, man. You're doing a great job. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to check out some older episodes. There are a bunch of these if you like what you heard here. Thanks to CS Instant Coffee for sponsoring this, and thanks to Patrick for editing this. Yeah, have a good one, everybody.